Avanti popolo, alla riscossa, mangiare rossa.
Anyways, welcome, James. Thank you so much for taking the time to come over on stream. I've been a fan for a long time, and I'm really glad we get to do this. How you doing? How's life? Complain about something.
Pretty
brag
good,
about
man.
something.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. I hit a workout this morning. I was like, I got to get that out of the way because I don't know how long we're streaming. So I'm going to the gun range later today with some buddies. So I was like, yeah, this is like a good little like morning activity for me. But yeah, dude, same. I'm a huge fan. This is really fun for me. Like I when you reached out, I was like, holy shit, this is kind of neat.
Oh, dude, least they could do. Least they could do. When do you usually wake up? You look like an early head. I'm the opposite.
See, I hate waking up early, but I'm forced to constantly. My job, I have to wake up like Monday through Friday pretty early, or like on a lot of days. But I like to sleep in. Like I'm not a morning person at all, but I've kind of been forced to adjust to it over the past couple of months.
And has it become like organic for you? Like you wake up automatically without alarm or anything from Monday to Friday? Because I feel like at one point it becomes like ingrained. Or are you still struggling with the closed eye, hand moving through the darkness, trying to find the fucking phone in order to turn it off?
I mean, like my roommates have said that like I'm basically like nonverbal for the first like 30 minutes of like me being awake. Like I don't speak. I'm like just like walking around trying my best. But I get up. I've got to the point where I've had to force myself to, and so like I kind of get in the flow of it. It's weird too, though. Like today, I woke up on my own at like a early time, and I was like, "Damn it, I'm never gonna be able to sleep in again." So that kind of sucks. But I mean, it's what it is.
Oh, trust me, you will be able to sleep in again if at one moment you can potentially make this your full-time thing. I think for 4 years I was 9 a.m. wake up every fucking day. I literally stopped putting alarms. It was fucking regiment. 1 year of being a disgusting, filthy content creator full-time, and I am the laziest fucking pig to have ever lived. I don't know how people do this for years and years and they remain quote unquote normal. I genuinely don't. That there is a curse in this freedom, I guess. If there was anything that made me doubt the thing that to an extent we've dedicated a very large part of our life to, which is fighting the contradictions of capitalism to lead to a new system that will have less contradictions, but still contradictions, and hopefully in 20 generations that develops into blah, 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 classless society and so on, where everybody gets to do whatever the fuck they want. Obviously, this is more complicated, but you get what I mean. Now, because of what I do, I've built my own tiny little communism, and I'm like, this shit's fucked. Like, do we really want that? Like, maybe the children do yearn for the mines, okay? This is too much freedom. This is fucking strange. But obviously it's strange to me because I've been, only experiencing classic fucking capitalism for so long. So I've naturalized it to myself in my head, and now the contrast of freedom feels wrong, feels unnatural. But yeah.
I did that for like a month. For like 1 month, I was unemployed because I quit my old job and like switched over at one point, and I kind of just went into full-time content production. I was doing like 3-4 videos a day, trying to like do as much as I possibly could, and I loved it because I wake up, schedule everything just whenever I wanted, and then I'm like, oh cool, I have the rest of the day to like do whatever I want. This is amazing. I have freedom. And then I went back to a job and I was like, oh fuck, right, okay.
Yeah. I guess I'm really, what's the word? I am calling for the ire of, I don't know, the Lord or the world or whatever karmic system that exists or doesn't exist by complaining about something that no human should ever complain about. So, my dad likes to say that's exactly when the big guy upstairs takes out the hammer, when you quote unquote forget yourself. So, Yugo, do not forget yourself, but absolutely. Let's start out. I like to start these off with a bit of like an autobiographical experience. So please, James, tell our audience about your journey to becoming the person you are today, politically, of course. But if you want to talk about those beautiful yoked muscles as well, that's more than welcome. Workout
I
regimen.
appreciate
Workout
that.
regimen. Sorry.
Throw my split in the chat.
Yeah.
But no, we've got so like I guess like that's a really good question. Like so I grew up in southern Indiana, in like kind of a working class household, right? My mom, my dad worked like sales and stuff for like different variety of different companies. My mom kind of jumped around jobs a lot. And when I was younger, my whole family's very conservative generally, except like two of my grandparents, like Blue Dog Dems, because they worked in unions. So they're like, yeah, Democratic Party means more money in my pocket. At least that's what they've said. But growing up in a conservative household, I kind of, while I was younger, started looking at politics a little bit differently. I think I, like a lot of people in Indiana, with conservative families, kind of was like, I don't know if everything my dad says is true. Sometimes he sounds kind of like a nut. So like, let me kind of look around, see what's going on. And weirdly, I fell into watching a lot. And this is gonna sound insanely fucking liberal. Bear in mind, like I was an insane liberal for like up until college. So like I started watching like Jon Stewart.
You and everyone else.
On
That's
Comedy
absolutely
Central.
fine. Never apologize
right.
for that. Yeah.
That's very fair. But like I started watching like Jon Stewart on Comedy Central, and I was like, all right, this
Same.
guy's making good points. Like
Yeah.
he's hitting both sides, and I was like, okay, I don't mind this. Led me down a rabbit hole to where I kind of became more of like a liberal in high school, kind of trying to figure out like, okay, some of the things I'm hearing don't sound right. Got into college, and there were like a couple of key moments. I think the first was like I met a Palestinian guy my first semester of my university. I went to school initially in like Southern Kentucky at a university called Murray State, and then jumped up to Purdue shortly after, which is where I got my degrees. But while I was at Murray, there was a Palestinian guy. His name was Wasim, and he and I became really close friends. We basically had a party at one point, and I remember hearing his accent. I couldn't place it, so I asked him where he's from. He's like, oh, I'm from Palestine. And I like jokingly, I had no skin in the game on this one, but I knew like vaguely that Palestine and the Israelis had problems, and I was like, "Oh, fuck Israel, right?" And he was like, "No, absolutely fuck Israel." And then like he started telling me stories, and then after a while, I was like, "Oh no, it is actually fuck Israel. This is crazy. Like this sucks." Like, so we became close friends, and at that point, like I was still very underdeveloped politically, but like I had like started jumping into studying Palestine. Kind of got into genocide studies towards the tail end of like my sophomore, junior year, and studying like the history of genocides in like a lot of different areas, focusing really heavily on Iraq and in Bosnia. And so I ended up, it kind of culminated, I was doing a study abroad. I had a couple of options on where I'd go, and I ended up doing the study abroad trip in Germany that was studying like European Union relations with the post-Yugoslav and Soviet spheres, which in practical terms is really just how much Germany's fucking over Eastern Europe. But like, I didn't, at the time I wasn't, I didn't know this. So the trip ended up having us going on a couple of different areas in Eastern Europe and Southeastern Europe. So I was in Bosnia, I was in Serbia, Russia, and Latvia.
What? Okay, you're basically me. Fantastic.
Yeah. No, this is like in Bosnia. It really was what radicalized the shit out of me, right? Going into Bosnia. I was in Sarajevo, and then we traveled over to Srebrenica and toured the memorial site and everything else. And like as I was going through Srebrenica, like I had always had this like kind of like humanitarian interventionalist lean. Like I was like, oh yeah, like the U.S. sucks, but like we could be good. It just so happens that we're never good when it counts. It's kind of a fucking moron. And so as we're going, I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, like. This happened under a Democratic administration, right? This wasn't just like a Republican Party fumbling the bag. Like this was the Clinton administration, right? And in Srebrenica, I don't know if you visited a memorial site ever, but there's a room inside of the actual site, the kind of museum element of it. It has this kind of video that talks really heavily about how the Clinton administration just basically didn't drop the bombs on Chetnik forces that were kind of coming into the area.
Yeah.
And so, like, even the Serbians were like surprised that there was like no fucking response from NATO or the UN. And so, that I was looking at that, I'm like, okay, that's really bad. I talked to the kind of curator of the museum site, and I had a larger conversation with him about how like Clinton really was a sore spot for them, obviously, as were like some of the peacekeepers that completely utterly failed, in no small part to just lack of support, but utterly failed in their operations. And I went home feeling pissed off, went home right into COVID. And then I got tear gas and I was like, okay, I'm putting it together. Like I'm seeing the
What
problems
a
here.
combination! Holy fucking shit! The
Yeah,
perfect storm.
it,
The perfect storm.
rapid,
Mm.
rapid. But I don't know. And at that point, I started kind of reading more. I started talking with people who knew a lot more than I did. And kind of went from just like pissed off, like, okay, I just fucking hate the United States, to like being like, okay, there's like a system here.
Mhm.
There's a bigger problem. There's a, I don't know, different elements of it. And like, you know, coming back from Bosnia, especially, like you're really seeing the results of like bipartisan efforts at just completely subjugating an entire country, basically allowing for like Serbian and Croatian forces for a while to basically take piecemeal whatever they wanted. And if it wouldn't have been for Bosniak fighters, you know, Bosnia probably wouldn't fucking exist.
Yeah.
And then freezing all of that instead of Dayton. Like, you know, basically just, you know, giving the Serbs, the Republika Srpska, basically just allowing all of that to occur. That for me, it was like the fact that Srebrenica is within Republika Srpska. I was like, this is fucking ridiculous, right? In my head, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And then, like, the sad part about the trip, I guess the funny part, I guess, in a fucked up way, is they took us from Srebrenica and then bussed us straight to Belgrade. Which was just weird because you had a bunch of college kids. We were just like, okay, yeah, so fuck Serbia. This sucks. Hate this. And then we're going into the capital city and seeing all of the what's the fucking group? They're basically a bunch of like Kosovar groups, and you were seeing like a bunch of KLA, like we have to kill these terrorists and shit, like on the parliament buildings and things. I was looking at that at the time, and I was like, this seems really similar to a story I've seen before, right? I was like, this seems really similar to the Palestinian struggle that I was seeing. And then again, like coming back, I was like, okay, there we go. Yeah, I'm piecing it together. Then I read some like Fanon, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm getting the picture here.
Yeah, how does this repeat in so many different places that one would never consider that, you know, something so, how do I put this? A particular thing starts playing in your head because you're seeing direct parallels between places that are like 5,000 miles away from each other, yet very similar rhetoric, very similar strategy, very similar approaches to be it, you know, ethnic cleansing or, you know, massive capitalist impoverishment, or when it comes to Yugoslavia and everything that happened there, you know, the destruction of an international socialist experiment that then, you know, moved into this 10-year era of, you know, massive suffering and mass murder. But then you also, you know, you see something similar happening in South Africa. You see something similar happening over in Palestine. Last week, I had a great comrade to come on and talk about, you know, India and Pakistan. And, you know, a normal person, I hope I'm hitting the nail on the head to an extent. A normal person usually goes like, okay, like either in two directions, either some like very quasi-scientific bullshit about the innate evil of human nature and how we are bound to repeat this shit because, you know, herder, you call God this, I call God that, we will have to kill each other. Herder, your skin tone this, my skin tone that, we will have to kill each other. Or the other explanation, which is like, bro, systems that motivate particular behavior patterns on a larger scale that lead to very similar events replicating themselves on different parts of the world, where that kind of machine of capital and empire and so on comes and knocks on the door. It's just very unfortunate that the other argument, you know, the human nature bullshit, is ironically so strong because it gets you to feel like you're smart and you're wise, and you know you get to be the cool, you know, cigarette smoker at the corner of the party that's like, they don't know that I know about the evil of human nature. And it took me a second to kind of make you know, split off from that innate need to be the edgy kid in my own development, and that's what arguably takes me usually the longest when talking to IRL friends or whatever, to try and make them recognize patterns to kind of dissuade out of. Did you have a similar-ish problem? Though you were studying it actively, so probably your pattern recognition was much better. But I'm guessing everybody struggles with it to an extent.
I mean, yeah, when I was younger, I definitely, it made me feel very smart to be like, this is the way things are. This is the way they've always been. It's just the way we are as people, right? And I think like to your point too, like it's just so fucking lazy, right? To be able to be like, oh yeah, no, it's just fuck it, yeah, people are just like that. There's nothing we can do. Nothing will ever change. Like, and I started like analyzing. Like Palestine was really the big one for me because like I'm looking at things. I'm coming out of like studying Srebrenica and studying kind of like the actions surrounding Kosovo. And then I'm looking at Palestine and I'm like, okay, everyone's saying this is really fucking complicated. Everyone's saying like this is like this big thing that like, you know, it's always been, it always will be. But I'm like, but no, like it seems to me like you know, I was reading this, I was like, it doesn't even seem like it's that big of like long of a fucking thing, right? Like even before I had really radicalized on it, I was like, no, like it feels like this has only been a problem for like 70 so odd fucking years, right? Like there's Palestinians who are older than like the colony. You know, and of course, as I learned more, my analysis stretched further, right? Because like, you know, Zionist colonialism goes back to like the 1880s, but like there's this really interesting dynamic of like, and you see it a lot in Palestine, especially people that are just like, oh, just how it always is. Like it's never going to be solved. It's just a religious conflict. No one's ever going to whatever. And I think like studying Palestine took me out of thinking of things like, oh, it's just how things are. And of course, like reading like socialist theory, reading like Lenin, reading Fanon, Stalin, kind of like some of those writers and their understanding of like systems was really helpful. But like it, you know, looking at that and then hearing people say, oh, it's just the way it is. I'm like, well, no, it's never like that, right? There's always a system. Like there's always a series of things that are reinforcing each other in cycles, right? It's like you don't just become, you're not born greedy, right? You're not born a dickhead. Like these things, there's
Except me,
reinforcing elements. Yeah. I mean, I you know, I'm just different. Like I was born shitty, but like, you know, some people, they've got to grow into it. They got to adapt to it. Like
you simply accepted the piece of shit. I was molded by it.
Yeah, exactly.
I was raised in it. Yeah, as the chatter said, it's non-falsifiable. Talking about the human nature bullshit, it's non-falsifiable. You can't easily argue if they can always say an example to the contrary. You're just breaking from the true trademark human nature. Absolutely. And chatters keep coming in. I check the chat, subscriptions. I will later read after the interview, to be respectful to James. I will read out whoever subscribed, say my thanks, etc., and the 10 gifts plus 5 still lasts, just like tough people lasts. Sorry, James, this fucking annoying Twitch self-advertising. They call it it's begging for money. It's so fucked up. I hate
dude,
that.
you got it. It's your grind.
I
hate your grind. I get it, man.
I hate it so fucking much. But hey, I managed to ideologize it here in chat as well as a great battle against advertising, which I unironically believe in as an ex-advertising guy. May God forgive me. But speaking of conflicts,
as a former digital marketer, I understand.
Oh, there you go. Okay, completely on the same page, my friend. But speaking of topics that are kind of cringe, but also I can't not touch on them, especially as someone with such a massive platform everywhere, but especially over on TikTok. I can't not use you to ask you what the big current like TikTok beef or interaction that you might have noticed that's like, you know, fucking under the limelight right now over on TikTok that my unk ass might be missing. Is there any spice?
Dude, I don't know, like this is the funny thing, like I try so hard like post 2020 2021 because like for those, like there's like a history of like left TikTok stuff, and like the community and the drama and everything else, and like post 2021 I like was like, I'm just not dealing with this shit, but like every now and then I get dragged back into it because I think it's really fun. And I live for drama, to be honest. Like I think that's my biggest thing. I love drama. It's very entertaining. When I'm not a part of it, it's fucking awesome.
Right, it is.
It's nice to watch. Like, and it just, so there was like this recent thing, and I'll say it to you because like it's really funny, and I haven't told this to anybody else yet. Like, beyond some people that I know from my old job. So there's this whole thing. I don't, have you heard anything about the Unfuck America Tour? This is like the funniest thing I've dealt with in the past like 2 weeks.
I was checking out your channel yesterday, and I saw you mention it, but I know absolutely nothing. I don't know if somebody in chat knows, but please introduce us to Unfuck America and then what it's about. How do we unfuck it?
This is so fucking fun. This is going to be such a great dive for me, for so many reasons, which I'll explain as we go. I'm trying to tell the story the best way possible. So, Unfuck America Tour is like this group of liberal TikTokers who are basically started this effort. This effort was started by this PAC, the National Ground Game PAC, that is trying to basically chase Charlie Kirk around U.S. college campuses and try to, I guess, debate him, because like liberals on social media have really just dived headfirst into debate bro culture. Like, it's all they do. It's like, oh, I'm going to debate you. I'm going to show you up on.
But it's relatively similar. It's like 1 year, maybe year and a half that they started doing it. Or do you think it's longer? Right? With those, I don't know. Maybe they're chill. So. Maybe they're not. But there's a bunch of like those young-looking fucking white kids that are like annihilating, like, stupid Republican lady type shit, which is like, okay, I guess, but like, what is this actually contributing to? Because the comments are like, man, you are literally solving America right now. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Run for Congress, bro. I'm like, okay, I guess, do your thing, I guess.
It's like, hell yeah, next presidential candidate just dropped. But it's like, fuck. No, this shit is so deeply frustrating to me. So like, this is another thing about Palestine, right? The idea of like denormalization and like not debating fascists is like critical, like in Palestine spaces. So because like even when you win, you lose.
Yeah.
In a way, like if you're platforming fascists, then like you're inadvertently, even if you have good arguments, like everyone walks away from a debate thinking they won, right? Nobody thinks they lost, right? Like. The worst debates I've ever seen, both sides go back to their bases and they're like, holy shit, we kicked the hell out of them, guys. Good job. You know, big ups in chat. And so for me, it's like, I try to stay away from it. But like liberal TikTokers, I think have realized that it's like super good for engagement. And so like they've doubled down on it, right? Because a lot of these liberal TikTokers, this is my cynical theory, don't actually give a shit. They love engagement. They love high video or high view videos, and so they found their niche, and they're dragging it, right? Because it's super easy. You catch a Republican off guard, you make him look like a fucking idiot, because he probably is, and then like, woohoo, you know, 1 million views. That pays the bills, right?
And it's so like Kirk. So a lot of these guys, it's so Kirk coded. It's like he goes to college campuses, talks to, you know, fucking kids that don't know nothing, and then looks like the smart guy in the room. But the libs are like, oh man, I can make a lot of fucking money like this by just talking to regular Republicans and conservatives and completely wiping the fucking floor with them. And I think you're not cynical. You're completely on point. Even if some of them started it because they genuinely believed in the liberal cause, whatever the fuck that means, and that, you know, this will contribute to the Dems winning this or that fucking thing. Once they saw the fucking money rolling in, and they were like, man, I'm doing this fucking full-time, fuck this shit, right? So, you know, an already commodified individual has been commodified even further by the market in the newly developed liberal debate bro sphere. Sorry, professional dysfunction.
And
I gotta make it about commodification.
Oh yeah. Well, and the beauty of it all is that they inevitably every 4 years get to throw up 99% Hitler versus whatever the Republicans are, right? So like, it's great. Everybody wins, right? Consultants make a ton of money. The TikTokers make a ton of money. All the middlemen make a ton of money. The candidates get to float their books, do their book tours and shit. It's a racket.
Yeah.
And so it's great for them. So they've established this. So Unfuck America Tour. I'm very ADHD, so I apologize. I'm gonna like jump around a lot, but like on Unfuck America Tour,
it's like saying hi. I breathe air. Sorry.
Okay, thank God. So Unfuck America Tour is basically this big group of creators. They were brought together by this PAC, and they're trying to chase Charlie Kirk around. What the issue with Unfuck America Tour from the get-go is that, one, in my opinion, totally non-productive activity. Right? You're just doing it. It's a media play, and I get that media plays work. You know, I've worked in media. I get the game. At least a little bit, but like they started getting some criticism on TikTok. Well, some of that criticism was from this group of like black creators who were doing this like small live, and by small I mean like 500 viewers, which like they were sustaining, it was a good sized live. But it wasn't like a crazy like thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people. And I guess for whatever reason, one of the creators from this group jumped in to defend it. And their main criticism was that there weren't enough people of color on this tour, which is a fair criticism to a degree. Like, I think that's also indicative of like liberal spaces generally. But like, this tour had a lot of white guys. All their headliners were white people. A lot of the bigger creators were white people. It makes sense, kind of, but it's also a fair critique. And I guess the creator was fumbling on the defense of this thing, and they were getting frustrated with it or whatever. But then I guess the person who was throwing it all together, like the head of the operations, jumped into the live. And I've read about this for like 2 weeks. I've kept up with all this drama. I don't know why the fuck she did that. Because it's so easy. And I get it. Like I'm content brained. I get it. So, there's this innate need to just like knee-jerk react to any criticism. But for whatever reason, she jumped on the live and I guess did a bunch of shit that was I guess was like microaggressions or something. She came off really just like an asshole, I think was the bigger thing. Which of course turned it into a much bigger deal. I guess a lot of creators on the tour then started getting pushback because she was being racist on this thing. She was doing microaggressions against these black women. She was just being an asshole, right? And I guess it blew up into this massive issue where you have creators that are like leaving the tour. People started doing their own like pieces on it. What was great for me, and this is the first time I've acknowledged this, is the person who put the tour together was actually one of my old bosses. Which is what made all of this so fucking fun. I didn't realize this until like 3 days in. And I was like, holy fuck. I used to work for this person. This is the best day ever. So I guess what ends up happening is she tries to double down. A lot of creators leave. And there's like this whole discourse around like Unfuck America Tour. This main person. I did a little bit of digging in the FEC filings for the PAC that Unfuck America Tour was raising hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So it was a PAC as well. Wasn't just
so
a bunch
Unfuck
of like
America
me,
Tour
you, and like 5 other dudes are like, oh, we're just gonna do these streams. We're gonna maybe go to some fucking campuses, chase this reactionary guy around. No, it was a PAC. What the fuck? Okay, plot thickens. Holy fuck. I thought it was just an informal group of bros and girls and like, ooh, let's do this. Oh, holy shit. Okay.
So this is where it all starts getting really fun. And this is where I started getting like really entertained by it, right? Which is that like the thing about like PACs is they all have to file. They have like quarterly FEC filings. So like you can go through and see like who's donating, where they're donating money to, where they're giving money out to, who their contractors are. And it's all publicly available, which is awesome. So, I, of course, like from my dealings with my old boss at this old company I worked for with her, I knew she was a really slimy person. She was a Zionist. She was like just a progressive in name only. And when I was new out of college, she basically got me in on this company being like, we're going to work with progressive political campaigns. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, cool. I ended up quitting like a year later because she at that point was like trying to get me to work for like a couple of Zionists and like just a cop in Wisconsin. So I quit. I was like, this is ridiculous. Management also sucked, but that was a whole other thing. But the primary thing was the political element of it. And I guess like, so I was like, okay, I know she's slimy, and I knew a lot of her operations when I was working for her were really slimy. So I was like, I just want to see. So Unfuck America Tour, as it turns out, is like a subsidiary operation of this ground game PAC. And this PAC is run by Z and these other people, Z being my old boss and these other people. And that committee or that PAC was giving money to all sorts of people. The interesting thing about it is that PAC had raised like $300,000 something, in no small part because of the Unfuck America Tour, which raised like I think like 100 to 200 grand. Like it was raising serious cash.
And it was all related to. Sorry for interrupting you, but it's all like so interestingly in a niche way focused on Charlie Kirk. When you open the site, Chad, if you want to open the site, I'm not going to, ruin my beautiful setup here. It's all like, taking the fight to Charlie Kirk. This isn't a protest, it's a movement. Why are we challenging Turning Point and Charlie Kirk? Why specifically Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA? It's like so insanely focused. Like, oh, this one talking head of the right wing. If we target this talking head of the right wing, because they're targeting our communities, our campuses, and our future. Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk are building a youth-powered authoritarian movement, and they're doing it completely unchallenged and in the open. That's why we're showing up. We're not just responding to their presence, we're organizing to outnumber, out-strategize, and outlast each and every one of them. It's like unfuck, I get it now. Turning Point USA, unfuck, because unturning would sound stupid. Yeah, it's just interesting just how like hyper specific it is when it comes to what this pack is supposed to do. Please give money, but then they end up like not only talking to Charlie Kirk and other people, and it like waters down and blah blah blah. Please continue. I just wanted to mention it to chat that it's very very focused. This is fascinating. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm
interrupt
having the greatest time right now.
Yeah, so like, so this is where it gets fun, right? Because I was like, okay, so if Z's in charge of this pack, and she's also kind of in charge of Unfuck America, there's probably something. Oh, someone said long live BDS, working group in DSA, absolutely. But sorry, it's old org thing I used to do. Oh, God bless. But so I was like, okay, there's got to be something else here. So I start going through, and I find in the FEC filings, and I'm not the first person to do this. One of my buddies actually sent this over to me and said, like, I needed to check this. So I knew there was going to be something there. I found in the filings that like $95,000 exactly had been given to this consulting firm called Soul Strategies, which is the place I used to fucking work. So I was like, oh, wow, I see it now. This is great. So what I guess happened was Unfuck America Tour funneled a bunch of money into this pack, which funneled a bunch of money into this consulting firm, which by merit of Z being in charge of all of this funneled a lot of money into her pockets, which is just awesome. And it's very indicative of like, if you know Z, if you've organized with her, whatever, if you've worked with her as like a boss, it's very much what she's about. It's how can I grift to make the most money for me? How do I get mine? And then like that was funny, so I made a video on that. But like what was really awesome was afterwards, like a bunch of like stuff also got leaked of her like using slurs and like being like actually racist and ableist and just crazy shit. So I'm sitting here at my new job years later being like, holy hell, like this is the best thing ever. I'm like texting buddies of mine who also quit at the same time I did, and I was like, y'all won't fucking believe what I'm watching on fucking TikTok right now. It's astounding. It really is. And like that's been like the big drama of the kind of weeks. I've seen some other stuff, like people are debating about eugenics, which is a more common thing on TikTok than you'd think, but I have not touched that. I was like, I'm staying out of that. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. I don't want to know.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
So we have a media company that looks at what's going on online when it comes to the discourse and realizes, okay, there's like the Charlie Kirks and, the far right pitch and so on. And I can see just how much money they're getting when it comes to, being funded by the Republican Party, but also by, everyday chuds that send their $5, $100, $1,000, depending. What if we basically develop a liberal, under the wing of the Democratic Party version of the thing that Charlie Kirk developed and make it like specifically a youth wing? And then, concentrate on posting online and doing these debates and, saying that we're going to chase them around campus and so on. Isn't that going to make a lot of fucking money? That's how I'm imagining the boardroom talk went. And if I was only into it for the cash and I was working for your boss, or if I was her, I'd be like, yeah, that's fucking cash money, baby. Let's fucking go. So
it's genius.
It's the train of thought makes absolute sense. But what's extra scary is that they're realizing that there's not only money to be made, but like a lot of publicity to be farmed out of the the internet space, the digital space that these semi-boomers up until recently have to an extent ignored. And it's crazy that they're entering it not even simply by co-opting creators that have already existed, but creating their own so that they can eat up as much of that space as possible. The market is fucking insane.
Well,
Jesus Christ.
and it's such a beautiful representation of like liberal resistance politics, where it's like we're going to go and hit this one individual on a couple of campuses, and a couple of creators are getting full expense paid trips to go do this. And then we're going to fundraise. And we're not going to fundraise for like mutual aid. We're not going to fundraise for that kind of shit. We're going to put thousands of dollars in the hands of consultants, and then thousands of dollars into the hands of probably a couple of endorsed candidates, right? Because this PAC will probably endorse people down the line. And so it's a perfect racket. And this is the thing that I found really interesting working in the political space when I used to a while back, is that it is a racket, right? It really is. Like the amount of money that spins, basically, like we're raising money for a candidate, that money's going wherever the hell, it's paying off a bunch of consultants, it's paying off a bunch of like different firms to do marketing, to do ad placement, all this stuff. And all of these companies are making like tons of cuts. You do marketing, right? Like ads are crazy in the political space, because like you end up like, some firms will charge like 50% of the budget as like their administrative fees. So like you'll get campaigns or like local parties dumping like thousands of dollars into advertising spends, and 50% of that's going right into the hands of the consultants that are making everything, which is a great gig for them. And to be honest, a lot of the smaller marketing firms are doing really good work, right? They're trying their best. They don't have a lot of staff. They're working 60-hour days, but it's like, it's a racket, right? And all of these nonprofits, all of these like PACs are doing all of these flashy media things because they've realized that they can look like they're resisting while really doing fucking nothing, and then raise like $100,000. And it's a great gig if you don't give a shit about anything.
It's yeah. Wow, brilliant, incredible story. Thank you for sharing it. And a literally, as you said very eloquently, a great show of how you can pretty much create an internalized, non-radicalizing funnel where only money just constantly exchanges hands through creating what amounts to content that self-pitches as incredible resistance and fighting the reactionaries and so on. But like, speaking of reactionaries, let's move over to Palestine and kind of start our conversation in reverse. What do you think the end goal for Gaza is for the current, at least, U.S. administration? Do you think the Netanyahu-Trump brotherly bond is shaking, or do you think that American foreign policy is an animal of its own separate form from whoever happens to sit in the Oval Office?
So there was, so I don't know. Do you know Adnan Hussein at all? Have you ever listened to his podcast or anything he does?
I know who he is. Have not listened to, no.
Okay, so I talked with him once, and he had this really interesting point where he knew this. He studies like medieval theology at the University of Queens. He's a professor there, and he's on like Guerrilla History and a couple of other podcasts, and his own podcast, the Adnan Hussein Show. And he did this really interesting quote talking to me one time where he said that he knew a guy who talked to a cardinal with the Catholic Church, and this is gonna sound really fucking random, I realize. But the cardinal had this guy had been like kind of pushing the ball, I think in like LGBTQ stuff, in like pushing the Catholic Church to be more inclusive, things like this. And he was at this massive gathering talking to this cardinal, and he's like, have you guys seen what I've written? Like, what do you think of this? And the cardinal said, well, the Catholic Church doesn't think in like years; it thinks in centuries, right? It thinks in, we're it's okay, like we don't really care. And I look at that in the same way I look at U.S. foreign policy, right? Where it's like, sorry, I'm moving something behind me. U.S. foreign policy, I think like the machine itself are its own sort of self-sustained beast that is really minimally impacted by whatever current presidential administration is in power.
I agree.
I think sometimes the administration is more chaotic, or maybe has different priorities on like where U.S. imperialism is really focusing the bulk amount of material. You see that in like the Democratic and Republican parties, right? Where it's like the difference between like, are we going to Eastern Europe and Ukraine, or are we going to Southeast Asia? Are we, are we fighting China? Are we fighting Russia? Like which, it's like which way, Western man, that kind of shit.
Which
where it's like,
way shall the bodies pile?
Exactly. And I think that the Trump administration, in a lot of ways, represents like a divergence from the kind of standard liberal political games that we've seen. This heavy reliance on like Central and Western Europe. This establishment of like a quote unquote like a liberal international order that is really just thinly veiled U.S. imperialism with some nice words to make it seem more palatable. And Trump is more of like I think a direct power player. I think he's more of a realist in how he interprets international political economy. I don't think he quite understands any of it, but I think he in his actions is more so like that. And I think he's broken a lot in terms of the rhetoric, in terms of what he's willing to tolerate, in terms of like what we're willing to do. It's also notable that like coming out of the Biden administration, it's weird because like Biden was probably one of the most ardently supportive presidents in U.S. history of the Zionist project. But I think he is still. I mean, Trump's a Zionist, and he has a lot of money from pro-Israeli donors who are wanting, especially expansion of the West Bank. I think Trump's also someone who is realizing that he can make deals in the region without having to directly include the Israelis all of the time because he doesn't really feel as if he's beholden to them.
Yeah. Make it
And I think on
less
some
of a
level,
rogue
Netanyahu
settler
probably
state and more of a classic settler state type shit.
Yeah. And I think too, like in the studies of settler colonies too, it's like I think there's a dynamic as well as like as the colonies become more as the colonies become more rooted in, I guess, for lack of better words, they tend to not always do what the imperial hegemon wants.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that, right? Like the US's ideal probably in Palestine is either the entire the mass liquidation of Palestinians is probably the underlying ideal for them because they don't have to think about it anymore. But like realistically, like for them, they can manage it. Like Gaza stays a concentration camp where food is just let in enough, where there's just enough aid, where Palestinians shoot a couple of rockets every now and then, but otherwise like aren't threatening the colony. The West Bank gets more and more and more colonized, more Palestinians forced into comprador states, Jordan, for example. Now Syria, potentially. Like where you have like those kinds of things, Lebanon. And you see like the U.S. strategy for the past couple of decades, especially with the Abraham Accords, has basically been making a shield around the colony, right? It's been ensuring that every regional actor is in alliance with Zionist goals. And I think that's because they realize that like they don't need to really answer the Palestine question if everyone else in the region's on the same page. So I think for like the liberal order, it was really easy to maintain like, oh, there's more settlers in the West Bank year to year. Oh, like Gaza is still an open air prison, although, there's not maybe a bombing campaign going on every year. And like, the 1948 territories are still like cracking down on Palestinians and anyone who even remotely advocates for anything beyond an apartheid project. But Trump, I think, is more in the line of like, let them do what they need. Like, fuck it. It's for him the political blowback that I think is the problem. It's if it hurts his ability to negotiate with like the Iranians or the Saudis or the Emiratis, which for 2 of 3 of those it's not, because the Saudis and Emiratis don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But to particularly negotiate with like the Iranians on like a nuclear deal that'll probably end up looking just like the JCPOA. It's important for him to manage the relationships. And so when the Israelis are lashing out and being what they are best, which is genocidal fucking maniacs, he has to at least on some ways reel it in. To that end, I don't know if that means he pushes for a ceasefire, but his willingness to negotiate with like the Yemenis, with Hamas, these other resistance organizations.
Wouldn't that be like an absolutely insane? Obviously, here we're talking about potentialities, but an absolutely insane twist of events, because it would be very interesting to see how the Dems react to it. What am I talking about? A potential ceasefire under the Trump administration, while there was nothing of the sort under the Biden administration, would be a very heavy hitting, in my opinion, at least, wrench thrown into the mechanism of the Democratic Party that would be pretty difficult for them to counter against, just the small amount of chaos that would cause in the main rhetoric that the Dems use when it comes to Palestine, and that's like, which is herder, why didn't you elect our Hitler 99%, because obviously your guy is Hitler 100%. But what if he turns out, when it comes to Gaza at least, to be Hitler 98%? Then like what's going to be their pitch? I can't even imagine it.
Yeah. I made a video on that actually, because it's a question that's been ringing around in my head for a while, which is, if Trump actually does do a ceasefire, not to say I think he wants one necessarily, but if it happens in his term at any point in the next like couple years, the Democrats have to wrestle with the fact that they kind of let a genocide happen under the guise of needing to make short-term electoral victories with this like this hypothetical white moderate voter base in the suburbs that never actually fucking votes for them. And they lost everything. The horrible blowout electorally in 2024. And then the fascist, the guy that they've been like saying is Hitler, does the ceasefire. Like, yeah, like I don't know how you even come back from that. I don't know how you wrestle with that. Because that means you got outflanked by Hitler.
Yeah, or you gotta be like, okay, well, I guess being pro-Palestine is Hitler now. Like that's the evil thing that that's the only way I can see the pitch pivoting. It would be unhinged.
Well, I think that is like, I've seen some like Kamala people, like these like dead enders that are still Harris supporters, be like, oh, like the real problem with Free Palestine is it's being weaponized by the Republicans to get like progressive voters to not vote Democrat. It's like, I think you guys did that yourselves.
Yeah. Don't like, okay, you put like every rock you could find in your pockets and you jumped in the fucking lake, and as you're struggling to grasp for fucking air, realizing that you're dying, literally pissing and shitting yourself at the bottom of the lake, you're looking at a guy like smoking a cigarette above and just looking down, you're like, what the fuck? And you can't even talk because your lungs are filled with water, and you're like, what? You did this? You jumped? No, you literally jumped. He did not push you. Fuck that guy up there as well, but he did not push you in that motherfucker. Yeah. That was.
Well, it's crazier too.
Go on. My bad. Mm-hmm.
No, you first.
No, I was going to pivot. Please continue.
Oh no, well, it's crazy too because like Palestine took the center stage in a lot of ways, obviously during this election, this last election. But what's really fascinating is that Democrats didn't just lose on Palestine, right? Like the Harris team was really adamant about shifting right on immigration. She was, right of the Biden admin. When it came to the people she was going to be putting in charge of like different like stuff regarding like treasury operations in regards to like financial stuff, there was always a question over like which bankers were going to be involved in that process, right? Yeah. She's a fucking Democrat. And I think a lot of Americans were looking at her, and maybe there's like a baked in amount of like misogyny and racism inherent in the voter base, sure. Of course, but like they were looking at her and her plans and going, okay, I'm seeing what is a pretty smug Democrat telling me that everything's actually pretty okay. The real threat is that it's Trump. This is the most important election in our generation again. Okay. And then like what her policies are, we're going to shift right to the Republicans on the border. We're going to let Palestinians die. The economy's great. We're going to do some minor tweaks, and it's like, okay, like give me a fucking break. Like you don't have to be politicized to know that like you're getting fucked over. And I think when Democrats kind of come in and they're like, oh no, like I'm saying this to someone with an econ degree. Mm-hmm. Like when Democrats come in and go, oh no, like the economists are saying we're fine, actually. I don't give a fuck about that if my eggs cost triple what they cost last year. And Democrats, I think, don't wrestle with that because like a lot of the people that are making the policies internally are like white collar consultants in DC who never really have to struggle for the problems they're talking on.
Or now even like multi-millionaire podcasters as well. That was a whole weird like American thing that me as a non-American was like, I'm not even gonna touch this. Like, why are you consulting with a dude that, I don't know, built his whole career on like Democratic Party sycophants, the Democratic Party fucking Freikorps, like only talking to them, and now you're listening to him when it comes to what should we do to attract more people, even though he's never addressed those other people in his life except for a, I don't know, semi-awkward conference that he needed to attend in order to get, I don't know, $20,000 from his favorite fucking Dem senator, and that's it. And he let in some weird poors in there or something. Like,
well, and people forget that, like, and like, look, I'm not a Bernie guy anymore, really, right? Like, I have like serious disagreements with Sanders in particularly foreign policy, but like I people forget that, like, you know, he was doing numbers in red states, like with Medicare for all, with you know, free college, with, oh no, people are fucking, you know, these corporate guys are fucking you over. We all know they're fucking us over. You talk to a small farmer in Indiana, he knows damn well that Monsanto and big business are fucking him. Like like I've talked with farmers. I know coal miners who were like going to college because they were like, no, this coal mine's going to be gone in like fucking 10 years. I know this for a fact.
Which is actually insane, because he's going to college to learn how to code, which is also not going to exist in another 10 years. It's like, you will be re-educated every 5 years.
Like, you know, and I feel like a lot of Democrats, they think that their voters are dumb. They you know, Hassan talks about this a little. I'm a big Hassanabi guy. Like, he talks a lot about how, like, and I agree with this analysis, like, Republicans are scared of their voters, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to, like, court that base. But Democrats, they hate their voter base. They have disdain for their voters. The fact that they might have any ideas about policy makes them feel like, you know, that, like, oh, God forbid. Like, oh no, this person's telling me that, like, they have this idea that I haven't, you know, that hasn't been means tested through 30 consultants that I'm paying 6-figure salaries to. Fuck them. Like, what do they know?
Turns out when you infantilize your voter base, they're eventually going to notice that you're infantilizing them and start properly, like, adequately hating you for the fact that you really, really obviously think you're better than them. Turns out that can happen, but like, no, of course it didn't.
Well, there's this really smug, like, sense of superiority intellectually in, like, liberal circles, and that's what always has made me really mad. And also what I think is driving them, like, really to do all this debate bro content, right? It makes perfect sense. But, like, I think that there's this smug kind of intellectual nature of the Democratic Party that's, like, very pseudo-intellectual. It isn't, like, actually, like, okay, let's, like, talk about these broader systems. It's like, oh, the real problem is, like, Trump. Maybe it's Reagan. Maybe it's whatever. But it's like, no, like, obviously for us, we know it's capitalism, and everything that comes with that. But it's like, even in the minutia, even from, like, a reformist perspective, it's like, guys, like, you know that when the food costs go up, people get fucking upset about that. And you can't tell them, like, oh, look at the GDP and these macro indicators and, like, inflation. And it's like, look at Fred. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
That's why you hit the nail on the head so well with these fucking white-collar consultants, and I'm going to steal that because that was unironically really smart. I mean, chat, imagine for the last 15 years, your main way of interacting with or learning about, you know, the quality of life of the average American was when you entered a boardroom and two dudes in suits whipped out PowerPoint presentations with graphs and shit telling you about how really, really good the economy is going, or about how pitching them this segment of the economy as look at how well we did, and this one we didn't manage to because of the previous 4 years of the other guy, etc., etc. When that is the only way you really are interacting with your everyday voter, and if that is the only way you get any sort of semblance of knowledge on what their lives are like, you're going to quite literally naturalize those PowerPoint presentations as more valid representations of what everyday life is like for the average American. So when you're going over to pitch them a particular campaign, you not just don't want to, but you are incapable of speaking to them as human beings, because to you, for the last 2 decades of your political career, they have only been numbers on fucking graphs, which additionally makes them feel even more infantilized, and then makes you look even more elitist. It's a really, really, really smart really smart way of looking, based, Freudian hours with with the two of us, of the psychological outlook of the everyday dem, and how they think they can talk to normal people. But so again, thank you. That was really good. But let's be more petty. Who is your favorite? No, go on.
Yeah.
You wanted to say something, and then I'll ask you after. Go.
Oh, okay. So the other thing too is that like a lot of these content creators, and like Democratic content creators in particular, have also found that like, and I, as a former liberal content creator, it's really easy to just punching bag the Republicans, right? To just treat Republicans like a punching bag for content. It's really easy to never say anything that challenges any of the status quo, that challenges the DNC lines, that challenges any of these political candidates. And in fact, it benefits you a lot. Like the amount of access you get if you have even like a little bit of popularity in Democratic spaces online is pretty impressive. You're talking like DNC passes, you're talking like behind the scenes stuff with different officials, you're talking about being kind of let in the room, quote unquote. You're never really let in
money.
The room, but you
They give you money. They ironically give you cash.
Lots of fucking money.
Yeah.
Like lots of fucking money. And so they never challenge it, and so it becomes like this this group of people who are like, it's not only that I ideologically align with Democrats, but my paycheck relies on them being right. And so they become militantly supportive of whatever bullshit they're doing. So you get creators who like, I've known creators in 2020 who were like radical, like calling themselves communists, who like now are like Democratic Party operatives, right? Who are like creators that get paid by like the D-Trip. And it's a money game. Like, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, I know damn well you're smarter than this. But like, it's the money, it's the power, it's the influence, it's this feeling like you're impacting something. Some of them do believe it. Some of them really do drink the Kool-Aid. But like a lot of them, it's the clout, it's the money, and it's the access, and it's crazy that like that's not a bigger thing.
Absolutely. Speaking of clout and money and access, let's do a tier list, not a literal tier list. I just want to hear your top pinnacle, the top of the Himalayas. Who is your favorite Dem Israeli lobby cuck, and why is it Fetterman? Which, by the way, the greatest name ever made. Almost as good as Arnold from Austria's name, whose last name I cannot say now because I'm contextualizing it with Fetterman, and if I said it, it would unironically be racist. But okay, second most unhinged last name, Fetterman. I am fetter than you. And I know it's with an E, but come on. You've had decades. This is a lineage of a family that at no point was like, why don't we change it? Like, just alter it a little bit. Just leave Fetter. Fetter is fine. I'm John Fetter. Nobody associates it with competing in calorie consumption. But yeah.
It's like, this is my thing, right? Like, there's a couple of guys actually. I'm from Pennsylvania. I live in PA right now. So I live in Philly. And like
I've been a lovely city. I've genuinely liked it.
If you're ever in, hit me up next time, because I'll take you on a tour around.
If you hit the Balkans up ever again, also. Always got a couch. This couch is waiting for you, my friend. It opens. It's very comfortable. I'm gonna silently stream you as you sleep the whole night. The chat will love that. So yeah.
But God willing, Yugoslavia reconstitutes, and then I can travel over. Get like a cool passport stamp.
Nice.
But we can for me, it's like there's actually a lot of like PA people that are like really annoying, like Zionist stooges, and it's like Josh Shapiro is a big one for me, but like Fetterman obviously is the biggest one. Like if I'm tier listing them out, like Fetterman's crazy, and this is the crazy thing about Fetterman is like he, even before the stroke, was like an asshole, and he was like a really rabid Zionist. I actually met him once, kind of, on a picket line in North Philly, and I just remember him. I remember being like thoroughly unimpressed with him because like he showed up, did like 3 laps with these nurses, and then like just gave a speech and dipped. And I was like, all right, cool, like thanks, I appreciate you being here for us, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, but Shapiro, like, this is the funny thing. Josh Shapiro gets away with a lot of stuff. Like, this is me conspiracy theory like posting a little bit here, but like Shapiro arguably probably covered up like a murder. At one point, like this woman who was like stabbed a lot, like multiple times, and like her death was like treated as a suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Insane thing to like look into more. Just the whole thing. But also, like, he was someone who
Wait, you can't
called,
leave me hanging like this with my fucking dick in my hands. The what? Murdered? Did he murder her,
Yeah,
or he covered it up for somebody else, or
he
what?
didn't. So, yeah, it's like this is a thing I have to learn more about before I say things. I think he was like an attorney, like an AG or something,
Mhm.
and he basically his office dictated this death as a suicide, and I think the defendant had some sort of like connection to him,
Mhm.
but like they're now reopening the case because people were like, no, she got stabbed multiple times. What the fuck do you mean this was a suicide? And that became like a whole talking point during the whole VP coverage. I can Google it real quick and like
Wow.
go through it a little bit at some point. Yeah, it's fucking nuts. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
no
was the
worries.
AG in
Okay,
PA, and this is the same thing.
you let a what you call it a fly into our brain. We'll check it out. But fucking,
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
interesting.
stabbed in the back. Yeah, your chat knows more than I do here. Yeah, she was stabbed in the back, and they ruled it a suicide. So whole thing, but whole thing, yeah. But like, basically, other than that, like he also, and this was really entertaining. So when the encampments were going on all
Mhm.
around Philly, particularly like the encampment at Penn, in Philadelphia, this Ivy institution that's just full of a lot of really just dog shit Zionists. Um, he was calling the pro-Palestine protesters. He was comparing them to like Klan members for a while,
Classic.
like as the governor, and was evidently really pushing heavily on trying to get people to try to bring in like police to break up the encampments, and it was like a whole thing. I was at the encampments for a bit. Good time. I can confirm no Klan members. But it
That's what
it
you
was
would
it was
say.
a lot of good people.
A clan member would never
Yeah, that's what I
admit to
would say,
being.
right? I'm actually, well, I mean, you ask Canary Mission and like a bunch of different Zionist orgs, and I'm basically the devil. So I mean, like whatever.
Oh, nice to
But
meet you.
like, but you know, it is what it is. I see. I should have done what you did. I should have worn a balaclava. This would have been better for my image, better for my brand. But
Nah,
I
fuck them.
I
This is a
fucked up
medal
and
you
let them
should
know my
carry with
name.
pride. This is a medal you should carry with pride. Fuck them.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But no. So he's like really vile, and he's always been like that. But also, Fetterman's like the big dog in PA for Zionism, just because he's like just increasingly unhinged. Did you see the recent piece that came out talking about him, like behind the scenes?
No. Which one? Maybe which one?
He's nuts. There's some like I can't. It was like paywalled, but I found an unpaywalled version because I'm just simply not paying to read about John
Oh, fuck
Fetterman.
that shit. Yeah.
But like there was talking about how like behind the scenes he's like becoming increasingly like unstable because he's not actually doing any of the like post-op stuff that he's trying to do that like his doctors were suggesting.
Yeah.
So he's like he's not showing up to anything. He's like putting his staff in danger, like driving them around. He's like becoming increasingly unhinged on Palestine. No small part because he was already a Zionist, but also because it's just like he's becoming more and more and more right wing as he goes. And it's basically like an expose over all of these things, and he's shouldn't be in office. Like, I mean, I don't just mean that in the contemporary, like, fuck him, he shouldn't be anywhere near power, but like genuinely from like a mental health perspective, he should not be an elected official.
Dude,
But yeah, no,
come on,
insane.
Fetterman. Okay, no, this is TOS. It's still Twitch.
Yeah.
But someone like Fetterman. Oh no, anything I say will be breaking the rules. Shit. Something emulation in self-emulation, something in Senate by a guy called Fetterman would be really good TV.
Yep.
It'd
be sick.
Yeah,
Sick.
it'd be insane. But with them, like, to me, like, when I figured out just how much this guy's being paid, like, that's not enough money for your soul, bro. Like the fucking like the ADL are kind of cheap asses from time to time. Like they're not
Oh yeah,
throwing
he's doing it for the
millions
love of the
upon
game.
millions at these people. Sometimes it's like $30,000 for you to advocate for mass murder. Really, for $30K in this economy, you can't even buy a fucking used shitbox from 2012 for $30,000 fucking dollars, dude. Can't even get
It's like
you
you're
a
telling
white
me
Mercedes
I'm endorsing
gun.
genocide.
Yeah, for 30K.
Like I'm endorsing
bro.
genocide. I can't even get like a 2020 Honda Civic. Like what the fuck are we talking about?
What are you fucking doing?
Like,
Are they okay? Are our senators like broke as shit? That's why they're doing this. Are we supposed to
I
solve
think
this
so.
by increasing senator salaries, if that's even a thing? Like God.
well, this is the funny thing too is like Fetterman didn't have to do what he's doing either. Like there's no real political pressure on him to be like militantly Zionist.
Yeah. He was the lib
and there's a
Stotsdam
lot of
guy,
them, like-
the working class guy we all love. Ooh, look, funny name guy.
Yeah.
Till like 3 years ago, yeah.
Oh yeah, well, and his social media team did a really good job against Oz, and I think like made a lot of people feel like he was a lot more progressive than he was. People forget too, I think, oftentimes that like Fetterman's the same guy that while like in charge of like Braddock, Pennsylvania, or like the mayor or whatever, like he chased a black guy around with a gun, like on the street side at one point, and that just for whatever reason was kind of looked over.
Yeah.
There were signs, is what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
there were. But like he made funny memes on Twitter, so everyone was like, "Oh fuck yeah, Fettermania or whatever." And it's like, thanks guys, like we've shit posted our way into like letting Hitler in charge of like the PA Senate. I don't know. I think he's gunning for a like a presidential nominee in 28 from what I've heard internally. At least in this article I was reading.
Is he gonna wear a suit?
I'm looking forward to it.
Didn't he only wear a suit
No, he'll never wear a suit.
But didn't he wear a suit where the Zionists when the Israelis came?
Yeah, he did. He wore a suit for Bibi, and I'm like, bro, like, come on, like, at least I don't understand it. Like, like, Fetterman upsets me for so many reasons, but I will admit, like, I am one of my arguments with Fetterman is that, like, I hate that he won't just wear a fucking suit. Like, some deep part of me is made upset by this. It's like, dude, just wear the fucking suit. It's okay. It's like made it his whole personality. It's like, it's okay. You can wear the suit. Like, I'm not gonna think less of you.
It's literally clown politics. It's like somebody asked the question, yo, if 99% of why people know me as a politician in the United States becomes me not liking to wear a suit, and that shows that I'm one of the people, could that elect me? And to an extent, this man is proof just how clown-faced American politics is. That me no like suit bad, suit rich man. Me no rich man, me no wear suit. Here you go, sir, your Senate seat. There you go, please. I vote now. Yes, like it's a great allegory.
Too.
Yeah.
Dude, you'd be shocked, like, the amount of politicians that, like, really do think, like, oh, I'm gonna wear some Carhartt and, like, talk to a couple of farmers for on a video, and, like, that's how they're gonna know I'm the real worker. And it's like, who are you? Like, it's a running joke. Like, I've seen candidates come in and they're, like, wearing Carhartt and shit. I'm like, dude, like, you bought this, like, 2 weeks ago. You can tell it's still, like, it's not even creased. Like...
Oh, absolutely. How do you explain the immense success, the anti-Semitic rebranding of anti-Zionism was? How do you explain the success of the rebranding of anti-Semitism, which in itself is very anti-Semitic, to suit Zionist goals has had? The whole, anti-Israel sentiment equals anti-Jewish sentiment. Mass scale PR stunt, especially as someone with a background in media, political organization, and so on. Because it's slowly dying off as the crux, as the main ship in the armada of the domestic Zionist American pitch, if we can call it. But nonetheless, it's still impressively prevalent. Let's use that terminology.
I mean, I think a lot of it is rooted in part due to kind of what we talked about earlier with the whole, like, it's always the way it is kind of mentality, where it's really easy to be a Zionist. It, like, as much as they whine and complain and bitch and moan about it, like, it's super easy to be a Zionist in the United States. It's like arguably the easiest thing you can do politically, right? You'll face no backlash for that, really, or at least you wouldn't for years, except from like pro-Palestine people. But like realistically, the core parties don't give a fuck. They never really have. And I think that it's the ease with which it is to just buy into it. There's obviously like latent Islamophobia and like general racism around Palestinians, and that's been the case since even like pre 9/11. Like the caricature of like terrorist was always like the Palestinian PLO fighter in like 1970, right?
Yeah.
And I think that for a lot of Americans, it's like, especially post 9/11, it's like, oh, this is just some brown terrorists in the middle of fuck knows where Middle East who are attacking these like peaceful white settlers that just so happen to align with our interests completely. Even though it's like not even really representative of the colony anymore, because like the majority of Israelis are not even like European, but it's what it's something. But I think that kind of baseline willingness to accept that narrative mixed with like just billions of dollars and coordinated campaigns. You have obviously every political candidate's reinforcing the same position to win elections, like for most areas of the country, like you kind of have to have those positions. At least that's how it's fleshed out. You have faith leaders who are obviously parroting the same things, not just in terms of like synagogues and temples that do play a role oftentimes in kind of the Zionist infrastructure, IOF recruitment campaigns, fundraisers, like land sales, things like that. But also like, Christian churches, like Christian Zionism is a massive problem in the U.S. and has been and continues to be. This idea that, we have to defend the Israelis, this idea of like Judeo-Christian values, this idea of like the rapture. Yeah. So you have like faith leaders and political leaders, these community leaders who are, pushing this narrative. Obviously, the media is completely willing to accept this because a lot of our media takes cues from the State Department as it stands anyway. And over the years, in like on campus even, like you have Zionist organizations that are able to really make like affinity groups like Hillel, basically, treating the entire Jewish space in like collegiate spaces as being Zionist, right? All of the institutions that are dumping money in, all these people that are organizing it, they're all Zionist influence. In Philadelphia, you get this too, like even historical museums and things. We have a museum in Philadelphia that is like it's like a Jewish history museum. It's outright like massively Zionist institution, but it gets away with like kind of being able to not have to worry about it because it's like, oh, it's like the history of the Holocaust and Judaism, and to a degree, like that's also part of it, right? The industry of the Holocaust, which, like genocide studies is very fascinating because a lot of it is really rooted in the Holocaust as being like the core example of like kind of like 21st century mechanized genocide, which is, I think, a little bit of a problematic characterization for other reasons, but like generally it's like used as like the baseline, or like a comparative baseline. And Zionists have latched onto that, basically using this very real trauma of not just Jewish people, but millions of like Roma, people, communists, socialists around the world, Slavs, countless people who were massacred brutally under the Germans and their acolytes in Eastern Europe, like the Croats, like these fascist, these fascist groups, and kind of like they've weaponized that trauma and that history as like justification for their project. And when you have a media, institutions, all these on-the-ground institutions, your faith leaders who are all saying the same thing, kind of parroting different variations of the same narrative, and then when you're like, oh, I actually think this might be wrong, you all of a sudden have everybody and their mother calling you Hitler, it becomes easy to not be pro-Palestine. It becomes easy to accept the status quo because it's safe. There's this book I've been reading, talking about like political prisoners, right? And Muslim political prisoners in like the Egyptian prisons after after the coup, and talking about like Abu Ghraib, and talking about Guantanamo, and like these Muslim prisoners, how they engage with their faith and things like that. And there's this quote in it that really stuck with me. It's like, it's very easy to side with the oppressor versus the oppressed, because the oppressed is forcing you to take a stand that could put you in direct risk. It's forcing you to challenge a status quo. It's forcing you to act, essentially, right? Whereas like siding with the oppressor is really easy because all you have to do is ignore, right? All you have to do is accept. You don't have to speak out. You don't have to do anything.
And
I
here
think all
they
of these
even
different
reward
factors
you,
play into
actively reward you for not
Yeah,
speaking out and for not siding and for just simply being silent.
exactly.
Yeah, it's a absolutely perfect storm. As you beautifully
Hmm.
put, you have organizations in place that further the particular pitch. You have the already
Hmm.
established, incredibly horrific perception of the Holocaust, which is directly linked to what Israel links its own identity to. You have a lot
Hmm.
of money at play, as you said. There's if they didn't use it, it would have been weird. It would have been understandable to not use it because one would hope that something is to an extent sanctimonious as that particular genocide of the 20th century would be something that no
Hmm.
political project, especially a colonizing one that bases itself in apartheid and the literal extermination of another group, which the Holocaust was also based on. Multiple
Yeah.
groups, but okay, with the Holocaust specifically, if we talk about Jews, one would think that an inkling of decency would make them say, okay, like we're building this fucking thing of ours, but we're not going to utilize the Holocaust because that's even too much. But that's just
Hmm.
me being, to an extent, an idiot, hoping that somebody who is actively committing physical mass murder would give any sort of shit about the sanctity of history and incredibly traumatizing events and so on. If
Yeah.
there is no limit to depravity when it comes to your pitch, when the thing you're pitching is already so inhuman that it is even to an extent difficult to wrap our heads around.
Yeah, and I mean, the interesting thing about Zionism too, like pre-Holocaust, is that it was really one of several different ways of Jewish community actors engaging with like the Jewish question, like what do Jewish people do in terms of integration or non-integration into European society primarily. And what's fascinating about Zionists is that they accept the kind of fascist, anti-Semitic framing of Jewish populations in Europe, which is that they're fundamentally never going to be able to integrate. They're never going to be safe.
Yeah.
They're not going to be part of the European project building. And in a lot of ways, like the Holocaust was the perfect thing for them to be able to utilize, right? That's not me saying that like, oh, Zionists like loved that it happened, but
Mm-hmm.
strategically it was something that they've been able to latch on to because like it's easier to do that and say, well, clearly, like if you look at this example, like we're never going to be able to live in
Mm-hmm.
peace with the Europeans, than it is to say, well, maybe we should hold these countries accountable
Yeah.
for the atrocities they committed. And maybe we shouldn't replicate imperial colonial strategy in a new land all our own, right? Because like people like the Nakba happened in 48, 47, 48, and like that's like 5 years after the end of World War II, right? And you had these Zionist settlers moving in and committing horrific atrocities. Bearing in mind that like Zionist colonialism in Palestine is well before 48, right? Like again, like 1884 is like when you see the first like proto colonies, but the the willingness of Zionists to kind of accept the narrative of like white supremacists essentially that like Jewish people can never integrate and therefore we need to dominate another population to replicate European colonial strategy nearby in the Mediterranean is always been weird to me. Um, and it's made me like have to not be as optimistic, and not optimistic, but I guess it's naive about like what people are willing to weaponize or discuss, right? Like when I see fascists weaponizing different things, I'm like, oh, okay, shit, I would never probably fucking do that, but
Yeah.
like that is what they do. Um, and I don't know, it's an interesting discussion in its own, I guess, like how a lot of these like Zionists, but also like other groups that are similar to them will utilize like this sort of like national mythology or this idea of like unable to ever like where they're like we can't possibly have a cosmopolitan,
Yeah.
multi-ethnic, multilingual
I mean,
society.
they
Like
always
it
do
has
it.
to be like a colony.
Yeah, they literally always do it. Herder, World War One, we were betrayed, we were impoverished, we were destroyed because of conspiracy XYZ. That's why we must not only free our nation of all the pesky minorities, especially that one that manages to manipulate everybody else, but also expand our Lebensraum into these, for in the case of Nazi Germany, into these Slavic lands. But what do we do with the Slavs? The Slavs are already too intermixed and too controlled by the Jews. Therefore, they cannot control their own destiny. So we will liberate them from the suffering of existence by quite literally either exterminating them or turning them into, castrated fucking domestic slaves, blah, blah, blah. But we get all to do all of that because of our massive suffering and betrayal, which was caused by Group XYZ in the previous conflict. Herder, we were under the Ottomans for 500 years. They mass murdered us in countless ways. That's why I'm going to go kill a fucking Bosnian Muslim because, I don't know, the state pitched it to me, literally manipulated me into believing that he's somehow the same as some fucking janissary from the 17th century, etc., etc. Replicate all South Africa. Don't even get, it's always rooted in some very, very, very real national trauma that is not treated with the sanctity that, in my opinion, to an extent it deserves, but quite in a contrasting manner, utilized to do the same type of shit just to another group. It is, to an extent, one could say it is literally treasonous to your people, because those very same people that were suffering in that very traumatic point would never have wanted to see you utilize it so that you do the same fucking thing that was done to them to some other poor schmuck. It's a very unfortunate the very unfortunate way in which trauma can be utilized for reaction. And the fact that it happens so fucking often means that some sort of mechanism needs to be developed more than the simple be the better guy or don't do unto others what was done to you. Because, we've been pitching that particular thing for a very long fucking time, yet, particular unhinged fascist states still manage to utilize trauma for conquest and killing. So it's a constant struggle. And I don't have a fucking solution. I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe someone in your chat does, on how to make sure reactionaries don't use real trauma as a mechanism to do damage to someone else. But it is something that genuinely needs to be addressed.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a real unfortunate thing too. In this kind of an overlapped thing in both the kind of Yugoslav and in Israeli contexts, where you have this. Not only are the genocided populations considered to be like oftentimes they're framed as like invaders all their own. Like in Palestine, a really common Zionist talking point is that Palestinians are actually from like Saudi Arabia or Jordan, and like they're not actually like a thing.
It doesn't exist. The land classic,
yeah, and it's like, oh well, like Hadrian kicked out the Jews like thousands of years ago, and so like this is actually ours, and it's like, okay, like let's relax a little bit. And in the Serbian context too, like there's a reason why like Mladic was like going into like what is now like Republic Srpska, kind of talking about like we're pushing back the Turkish invaders or the Turkish hordes, right? It's like it's weird. I don't know. The Serbian context makes me really sad, to be honest, because like I think people have a tendency to, I think, oversimplify the dissolution of Yugoslavia and really, I think, blame monolithically like Serbian populations. When like more Serbians died in World War II, like partisans, than like any other group in the Balkans. And like the Serbian communist movement, the trade unionist movement was strong, even as like these nationalists, these like not nationalists, these like Chetniks, rolled through and started taking different power, pushing for like over centralization in the Serbian model. I don't know. Sorry, that's a tangent, but I've always
I would love to.
Like a whole other bag.
I'm gonna like next time you come on, which I've enjoyed this so much. So you're definitely coming on. I'm not even asking, motherfucker. We can do a Balkan back and forth. That would be Balkan history. Particularly the post-Yugoslav or Yugoslav wars, depending on who calls it what. It's a long and extremely interesting conversation. No, I would love to,
Yeah.
especially to hear from someone that is, I guess, less ideologized than I am, even though I come from a relatively mixed background, and I never tell, exactly for this reason, I never tell chat what particular, ethnicity I am, because that immediately invites so much fucking toxicity and infighting and so on. Dude, the guy I told you I had on last fucking week, he gave me the whole history of, India, Pakistan, and so on. And again, it was a massive trauma in the case of India and Pakistan. The British colonizers leaving, drawing lines in a very stupid way, and then there needs to be mass migration between these two peoples that are basically the same people but of different faiths. And because of this migration, and then their conflict of who gets to draw the line where in between each other, they end up fucking killing each other to a traumatic fucking level, which now 50, 60, 70 years later is the main kind of ideological tool used by the local governments to say these are our eternal enemies that we will fight forever because of the trauma that we experienced before. But the trauma was created because of a larger global context of the colonizing force leaving, and then letting everybody there in their own semi-reactionary ways define who gets to take what village versus the other one. It's always context, it's always systems, it's always larger. That doesn't mean that that excuses the actions of individuals, especially those in power that have pushed these particular insane fucking different forms of ethnic cleansing and genocide. But removing the general global context is also it ends up taking us back to the herder human nature. We bad, that's why we repeat type shit. And I don't want to take any more of your beautiful Philadelphia sunlight away from you, so we're going to finish off with one question that as someone who's been following your TikTok for a while, and you've been covering it really well for the last 6 months, I want to touch on ICE and your hot takes there. Ice baby, as they say, but not in a sexy white man dancing. What happened to that guy? Is he still making music? I don't know. I love that song, but he's a one-hit wonder, right? He only made that thing, right? Sorry, jumping between. So there's 3 hot takes on the current migration policies of the United States. One is they want to create a mechanism for large-scale detainment and expulsion of unwanteds, and are working towards it one step at a time. The other one is they want large-scale detainment and expulsion of unwanteds, but are too incompetent to pull it off. And 3 is the Trump administration is using ICE and a couple of 100 sacrificial lambs to satisfy the part of the Republican voting body that cares most about migration, but they won't really do more than that. What's your take? And I honestly think it's kind of a combination of the 3.
Yeah. My honest opinion about ICE, I can't say on Twitch. But I guess,
of course, but the organization itself,
yeah,
I agree.
But
it's a thing you can't say. Yes.
yeah. But I think ICE is a very interesting agency, and the DHS as well is a very interesting department within U.S. government. And its formation post 9/11 is, I think, notable. But notably like an extension of existing U.S. immigration policies and xenophobic policies, anti-communist policies, etc. I think that post 9/11, we kind of kicked some things into hyperdrive in more of an official capacity, which is where you think DHS, ICE comes into play. But I think for me, I always view I view a lot of the Trump administration actions as part of like a larger historic continuity. I think people have a tendency to look at the Trump admin as like an aberration or as like its own unique thing, when a lot of the things that Trump admin has done and continues to do have been done under previous administrations, right? Like from Bush to Obama to Biden to Trump. These administrations have all kind of pushed the ball in their own ways and expanding the purview for ICE and expanding what they can do and increasing their funding, increasing the hiring, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think ICE has always been like a tool in the toolbox of U.S. policymakers to handle quote unquote desirables. And what that means has typically always been threats to national security, quote unquote, or people who are like constituting like immigration, illegal, quote unquote, like immigration. So, which I think is like a bullshit thing anyway for so many fucking reasons on both ends. But like basically ICE is like a brute force enforcement mechanism for terrorizing communities domestically that might in any way, shape, or form constitute a quote unquote threat to like US government policy and planning. And so for me, it's like looking at what Trump is doing with ICE, it's not surprising. And I think what he's probably doing is just what presidents have for a long time done, which is like treat ICE as like this hammer in a toolbox of different mechanisms for quelling political dissent and quelling this quote unquote threat of immigration, which I think is really just rooted in this like white supremacist fear of like white genocide or whatever the fuck. And I think like that what we're seeing is that ICE is really a way for presidential administrations to signal to their base that they are in fact aware of and willing to acknowledge and fight to acquiesce this idea of like white anxiety in like U.S. spaces, which I think is what it ultimately boils down to. Because like the Republican and Democratic Party don't give a fuck about immigrants when like companies are bringing them in and like basically just employing the shit out of them using their HB1 visas as like functional like tools for enslavement. They don't give a shit about that. They care about this idea of like, oh, like they're bringing fentanyl across the border or like whatever. And it's really easy, I think, in the same way that a lot of governments do this, to treat these populations as if they're like the problems that are like inherent in all of our systems. To say like, oh, like, you know, like your food's getting bad, but have you heard about fentanyl? And it's like, yeah, like I come from a Midwest state, like, yeah, that's like a fucking problem. I don't think there's anybody in the Midwest who hasn't been touched by like, or at least knows someone who's been touched by like drug problems like fentanyl. It's a massive issue, but it's like not an issue of like immigrants. It's an issue of like pharmaceutical companies like getting people doped up on painkillers as a way of like easily boosting their own profits, and then giving kickbacks to doctors to increase the prescription rates. But that's a whole other thing. But I think broadly like ICE is it's just a flashy hammer. I think like what we're probably going to see under the Trump administration is an expansion of detention facilities, because it's an easy tactic for the Trump admin. What I think is probably also going to happen long term is continued deportation efforts. Notably, we're seeing less deportations under the Trump admin than we saw under the Biden admin in its tail year. It's yet to be seen if that's going to be a trend that holds.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the third part of what you had said as well, like blending it. For Trump, it's a media game. Right? He wants the media spectacle of like, we've picked up these immigrants, we've taken these criminals off the street, we're putting them away. Even if he's not actually deporting as many, he likes the media spectacle. He likes the headlines, right? Because it does signal to his base, like, look, we're dealing with it. But he also has corporate interests, and I don't think his corporate interests are necessarily going to love him taking away a cheap labor supply.
Exactly.
Frankly. So I don't know. I'm torn. I think ICE is just a hammer that's really flashy and really useful for administrations who want to feel like they're doing something about an issue they've created. Right? They're also just basically a fascist paramilitary group. So like that's my bigger look at it, and it gives admins a lot of broad leeway to terrorize immigrant communities whenever they feel like they need to make their base feel like they're doing something about immigration.
Fantastically contextualized. Yeah, you're developing your paramilitary group. You get great PR with the voting body that's racist as fuck, and you are potentially setting up infrastructure for some grander plans down the line, which right now would be far too impractical and unprofitable because of your connection to big capital, pretty much. Incredibly well contextualized. Yeah.
Well, and I think the Trump admin is seeing the limits of their own system, right? Like they were trying to pull people in, and they were trying to fly people down to Guantanamo and shit like that. And they're expanding the facilities now and doing stuff like that. But like I think the Trump admin ran into a wall of like the infrastructure is not yet actually sufficiently in place to do the kind of damage they want to do. Now there are efforts to fix that, right?
There are true believers that actually want to deport like 20 million people. Nobody's saying that there aren't true believers. It just they're not on the same page fully, both because of pragmatic reasons and because of capital interest, right?
Well, and the infrastructure is not there yet.
Yeah,
like, I mean, they're building out new detention facilities in Jersey right now. It's been a huge fucking problem. Speaking from the Philadelphian context, like There's been
Imagine
ice
being
raids and shit
deported to
in
fucking
Philly.
Jersey. Holy shit. Oh my god.
That sucks. Yeah, fuck that.
El
I would
Salvador,
rather go
I'd
to
pick you
wherever I came
anything.
from. Like I'm choosing MS-13 over a Mets fan any fucking day of the week. But like,
Oh, that was
but
great.
like, you know, it's
Like,
a big
what does
problem.
even
I
a New
mean-
Jersey concentration camp look like? Like, it's gonna be like highways
Yeah,
inside
yeah.
of the concentration camp, and they're like, there's a big pickup truck that is whipping a small pickup truck because in New Jersey they don't understand places you can walk in, right? So you gotta like
every 20 minutes, the guard walks in and he's like, "This food's just not as good as a diner from my home city." And it's like, all right, you're from Newark, like.
they punish them by giving them high nutrient, low calorie food. Or something.
Yeah, the real punishment is actually just having Jersey citizens talk to them while they're incarcerated. Like that's cruel and unusual. That's got to be something like this.
They make it into. I mean, they already do it. It's so fucked up. And I even worked in an industry where I talked to a guy and was like, "Dude, that's the future." They make the New Jersey concentration camps into literal call centers. And the call centers are used to find other people that need to be brought into the camp, and they all talk in a New Jersey accent, and depending on how you react to it, you are either approved domestic hero and real American citizen. But if you don't like it, then you must pay the New Jersey patriotism tax, which is 10 years in camp in big truck. I'm already imagining.
Hold on, really quick. I have to directly respond to one of the chatters who said, "Comrade, only in your city do they have to grease the poles." You're damn right. You're damn right they do, because my city's fucking awesome. Philadelphians are fucking hilarious. So, like, yes, we do grease the poles. That's not our decision, though. That's our government being fascist.
But what did the Polish
They don't
people
let us
do? I don't
climb.
get it.
No, so like basically in Philly, there's like a long-standing thing of like specifically like around the Eagles and our sports teams, but also in like the Italian areas of the city, like they have these competitions throughout the year, where like every time like a sporting event is occurring, like Philadelphians will climb the traffic poles and shit. And just, like,
That's
they'll break
it.
them,
Okay.
or they'll
Oh
like
my
do
God.
stupid shit.
Yeah, I
So
saw.
like the
I've seen
mayor
Philly.
every
Yeah.
yeah, so like the mayor and fucking Philadelphia police, like they'll come around and like they'll just grease all the poles up to like stop people from climbing them. It doesn't fucking work, but it's like a running joke. Like it's like really annoying. Like I don't know, our city doesn't like us to have fun. Is essentially what it boils down to. Fuck the mayor of Philadelphia, by the way. Like all of them, but especially this one right now. But yeah, they do this. They don't like to see Philadelphians have fun. God forbid we enjoy ourselves.
At least I hope the Polish people will at least enjoy it. Sorry, I'm really pushing.
Yeah, this might be
the idiotic pole
this might-
greasing the poles. I'm sorry, I'm obsessed. It's
no, it's okay. It's
too
okay.
good not to use. It's too good not to use. Oh, fucking phenomenal! And like always, it's good to end on Polish people.
Absolutely.
As they said. TOS. No, I can't make the joke. The joke would have to do with a Polish man in Israel and a rocket. So, an ending.
Yes.
That was joke.
Well, you know, historically, Poles have weirdly found themselves several times on like on the right side of history. Not always. Certainly not
Just
always.
like
but in
every
Haiti that one
nation,
time.
I don't think there's a single nation that was always the good guy, right? Maybe a few.
No.
exceptions. Yeah.
A couple. But no, like I mean, hey, the Poles were doing cool shit in Haiti. Is all I will say. Like there was that one
Absolutely.
time they did something kind of neat.
I agree completely. I agree. Also, Zubrovka vodka, not bad. Okay.
Yes.
You put
Yes.
some grass inside of vodka, changes the whole fucking thing. I approve. Head hurts
Phenomenal.
more, but it is acceptable. Couch behind me next time. Balkans, you come visit. I teach you how to drink
Yo.
Zubrovka. Tell everybody in chat where they can find you. Not only in chat, this will be edited and then uploaded on our fledgling Yugopnik live channel. Where they can find you, what upcoming projects you might have, and so on. Plug away, my brother.
Yeah. So you have my YouTube that I'm not admittedly doing anything with right now because I'm really terrible at filming non-vertical. It's really the only limitation I have. I'm through and through TikToker, unfortunately. My TikTok is obviously James Gets Political. My Twitter is Good Vibe Politique. I also write periodically for Mondawai, so if you want to hear me do what has been described by some as Hamas apologia, I do that on Mondawai.
Nice.
It's pretty fun. But yeah, that's my big thing. Also, if you check my Twitter out, check my pinned. I'm raising money for a family of 5 in Gaza right now. They need money, so if you have money, give them money. But yeah, that's kind of my big pitches.
Phenomenal. Everybody, if you do not immediately go follow, subscribe, / endorse everything that James represents, you are a stupid little doo-doo brain, and I do not like you. Ironically, James, you're fucking brilliant. You're a really smart guy, really wise.
Appreciate you.
Thank you for taking the time to come and hang out in our humble little community. It's been an absolute fucking pleasure. Go now, enjoy your motherfucking weekend, and I am 100% sure that we will do this again. Maybe we can even set up something for the deprogram, but I also want you here on the lives, because this was it rarely happens, but I actually learned something. So, because I know everything, like obviously, like every Balkan,
it's hard being as smart as you.
Yeah, no, we're born knowing absolutely everything. It is. Father, except only father no more, but when father died, then you know everything. So when child born, you go and you tell, I know everything, but you know after me, but after I die, you know everything. It's like it's an eternal classic. Go now, go forth and multiply if you want to, I guess. Thank you very much for coming on, my friend, and look out for this thing when it comes up also as an upload and shit. I'll text you, and let's keep in touch. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, have a good one, brother.
Have a good one. Bye-bye. Hey, friends. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to support the channel and the editor's hard work. And if you want more, join us live on Twitch 4 times a week. Click the link below and follow Yugopnik Twitch to get notified whenever we go live.